Alright, I've done some videos on wood cutting boards recently, and one of the things I keep mentioning is avoid water. You don't let the board sit in water, you don't put it in the sink, you don't put it in the dishwasher, none of that. Last week I went to a client's house to size up a project, and I also sold them this board. And they've got this big giant island, granite top island, and I was very specific. I said, look, this is how you take care of it. Avoid the water. Don't let it sit in water. And I went over there this morning because I had to get a check for something. I'm doing a couple shelving units for them, and I looked at the board and I could see it's rocking on the counter, and I pick it up and there's water under it and the whole counter's wet. Irks me, right? So the bottom of this, it swelled a little. There's a very slight cup to the top. You don't have to do anything with the top, but I'm going to. And I'm going to resurface it using this machine, and so this is all real time. And I'm going to also talk about the, I think it's called the 570, the INCA TOOLS 570, INCA planer, joiner planer. It's got a 10¼ inch wide capacity for a joiner. I've done this for people on the road. When I'm on the road, I'll do this with a belt sander, which is a lot more work. So this should be kind of fast. It's going to get a little loud, and let's go over this right now. So first thing I do is I look at how my grain orientation is. I know I got to push it in this direction. I'm going to go ahead and flatten this top side first, even though it doesn't need much, 2 or 3 passes max. And then I'm going to switch this to planer mode and go through that. I only wear hearing protection when I use this machine. In the 20+ years I've used this, nothing's ever come back at my face with this. Table saw is a different story. I'll always wear eye protection with that. Adjusting my depth because I don't want to take a whole lot off. That I noticed that there's some deep knife cuts in this already. When I see deep knife cuts in a board that's a new board, what that's telling me is that your knives aren't sharp enough. You have to sharpen your knives. There's a cutting board thing and there's a knife thing. I sharpen all my chisels by hand with a Japanese Waterstones, and I can shave with them, with my chisels. So if you're not sharpening your knives, if you're not using a sharp knife, that means you have to put more pressure on whatever it is you're cutting. Even she said she's only been cutting fruits and vegetables on this, and there was some pretty deep knife marks in this. That knife isn't sharp enough. You should be able to just glide through it and just barely touch the wood. So something else to be on the lookout for with your cutting board. I'm going to convert this machine right now into a planer mode. Again, it's the INCA TOOLS 570. They don't make this machine anymore. It's a German design, made in France, I believe. It's the best joiner planer out there for furniture makers. It doesn't have a super wide capacity like what we use here. Most people have 12-inch planers, but you're usually limited on your joiner to about 8 inches. So with a nice wide joiner like that, I can take a a board that's 10 1/4 inches wide, and I can go ahead and flatten that board out. I'd like to have a 14-inch joiner planer, big industrial machine, and maybe someday I'll have a location where I can get one of those. This also has the Tersa head cutter. I'll show that to you maybe later if I decide to convert this back, but that's doubtful for time on this video. Some people will take a screw gun on this to make it go up faster. It's not that important to me. Remember that board was around 1 5/8 inches. Let's see what we got here. Oh no, this is a thinner board. This board's closer. It was a little over 1 1/4 inches. That's what we'll put the setting at. Sliding super easy because it's flat. Go too deep on the first pass, it'll bog down and throw one of the belts off. Tell from the camera, but it's planing the center, hasn't touched the ends yet. It's cupped up. That's it. So what I'll end up doing now is hitting this with a 5 on a couple of these corners, hitting it with a 150 with a block, sand it out again, and then which is going to bog up the sandpaper. Now I'm going to re-oil it and apply a little more wax. I'll bring this back over their house. But that's how you can resurface one of these boards if you have a joiner and or a planer. And again, you can do all this with a belt sander, but this is a lot faster and easier. So again, please stop putting your cutting boards in water. Don't let them sit on water. I'll show you something real quick. For these people, this is not something it's not something I want to have to do, but you got these little rubber pads here. So I'm going to put these on the corners, and if you create an airspace under your board and you have a wet counter that you want to leave it on, that should help. But just please stop doing that. These things aren't cheap, so why do you want to ruin them? Don't put your cutting boards in water. But again, you can resurface them. Make sure your knives are sharp. Learn how to sharpen a knife. When you buy a knife, most of the time it actually is not sharp enough. You should at least get a leather strop and sharpen your knives that way. Look in your local paper, well, not a paper, who uses the paper anymore. Look at Craigslist, next door, look for knife sharpeners. Do some research. If you're going to be cutting food, you think of yourself as a foodie, and you're cutting things with dull knives, that's a problem. It's a problem. So again, stop putting your cutting boards in water, because this is kind of wasting my time here. And that's it. So have a good day. Listen to what I'm telling you. Merry Christmas.